Welcome to MTM Travel, where we're going to talk about memories and get all philosophical. Mark is going to preview his Rio trip, and we are going to talk about how Marriott is so ridiculous. All of that coming up right now. So, Mark, we have a lot to talk about. I'm looking forward to learning about your Rio trip, but let's start with a philosophical discussion that I was just thinking about this. I've thought about this before, so this isn't a new thing, but yesterday on Sunday, I was going through pictures and videos with my daughter. It's so funny because I made, what, 6, 7, 8 years ago when I was making a presentation, I made a video of my son. And what I did with him through the years is I would say, Shawn, where are we? And there would be all these videos, and I cut all that together. And then over the years, he got a little crankier and crankier about it. And he's not somebody who loves to go back and watch videos and pictures, but my daughter does, and she loves it. So I finally got the kid who loves to do the stuff that I do. But I've always had this thought about memories, like travel memories in specific, but it could be anything. Is it more valuable when you actually experience it, or is it more valuable going back later and having those moments to sort of relate back to, and the richness that it gives your life in, oh, I was in this place, and you can relive a memory multiple times. You only get to experience it the first time once. And I almost think it's more valuable in the future. I don't know. I know this is a weird sort of philosophical thing, but I would love to hear your opinion on it.
When you brought it up before the show, I'm like, I don't know exactly what you're aiming at here. But yeah, now I get it. I think, they definitely are intertwined. You have to do the thing to be able to relive it. But I think that's what makes travel so great, and why there are a lot of people that love solo travel, but that isn't me. I've never really been into it. I don't enjoy it much because I feel like it's, your trip is so much more enriched when you have somebody to share it with, whether it be a friend, a child, a spouse, whatever. Or if you travel by yourself and you meet some people and make friends on the trip and things like that, then you definitely like to have jokes about things. That's my favorite thing about trips and travel and memories, is getting to pull up things that only like you and the other people that were with you will understand, but you can kind of do like inside jokes about things, or bring it up for years and years, and then you can text each other and be like, hey, remember this picture? We haven't talked about that in a while. So I do think you get more value over it in the future because you can go back to it so often. But yeah, you definitely have to live it first. They're somewhat intertwined. I do think the secondary part is probably a little bit more valuable, but you can't get it without doing the actual trip.
Yeah, and you're someone who loves to go to bars and tell stories and do all of that stuff and create new stories too, but it's all part of the thing, and the amount of joy that it gives you in reliving it. You're absolutely right that I think that this is the message that gets lost on people in American culture, and saying, hey, we're going to travel tomorrow, we're going to do this when we retire, is that you have to actually get the experiences, and then they continue to pay off throughout your life. You get the initial thing, but then you tell the stories, you have the shared experiences with others, and it really does become deeply meaningful. And I just know that from my own stuff, because my own travels are deeply meaningful to me. I don't expect the place that I visited 15 years ago to mean anything to other people, but having that shared experience with my wife, with my kids, and doing that, it just keeps paying off throughout your life. It's almost like a deposit you're making now. And as you said, like, living it in the first place is cool, especially when it's
Yeah.
like iconic, like the first time you go to the Great Wall, or you see the Eiffel Tower for the first time, those sorts of iconic things that you've always wanted to do. But it just keeps paying off, like with interest. It's like compounding interest over your life.
Yeah, and it's funny, like how often the small things are what you remember. Like a lot of times, it's things that went wrong, and maybe you're mad at it, in the middle of it. But then it's a funny thing to draw back on, and going to the Eiffel Tower is awesome. But I bet you, like from trips to Paris, you talk about like some cafe that you guys found, or at least I would be, some cafe you found randomly walking around. And it was like the best bread or the best coffee or whatever you've ever had, and then you want to go back there. And that's a big reason I like traveling back to the same places. One, because if you find something you love, I like going there, re-experiencing it. Like my favorite restaurant in the world is in Rome. Rome is cool. It's not my favorite place, but I'll go back there just because my favorite restaurant's there, and then branch off and try to go to different areas. But every time I go to Italy, I'm going to spend at least a night in Rome just so I can eat at that restaurant, talk to the same wait staff, all that stuff, because it's just such a great experience. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to. Like, and I'll go back to the same places where a lot of people are like, there's too many places to go. Why would you ever go back? And it's like, well, if you love a place, you already have a base, and then you can grow from there. And you learn so much more about a place, the more you go to, because you start to expand out. Usually you start like city center only, then you kind of grow out because you're a limited time and stuff. Like, I can't wait to go back to Singapore.
Yeah, and I think that's how your mindset changes as you travel. I think normal people or people who are not kind of opening their mind up to it, they'll have these bucket list places. I want to go to Paris once so I can see the Eiffel Tower, and then you learn, or go to Rome once to see the Colosseum or whatever it is, and then you learn over time, hey, I like that place, I go back, and then you really do get a relationship with it. And I've talked about this before, but it is so meaningful. And I wish I could just like tell people that. I wish that people would listen when they say, I want to go somewhere and do something. Just do it. It's literally my advice. Just do it. And it sounds so, people have struggles, right? There's money can be an issue. There's all kinds of struggles in life that will keep us from doing these things. And when you say just do it, it makes it sound like you're just negating all of that. But in the end of the day, I've met people from all socioeconomic walks of life. Obviously, we teach people how to use miles and points, how to save on it. But the number one thing getting in people's way of traveling is just themselves. They've just decided, I can't do it today. I'm not going to do it. I'll do it tomorrow, or just excuses. And the people who I have found that don't make the excuses, they find ways to do it. And then it just pays off in a meaningful way. And that was just sort of what I was thinking about as I was going through these videos with my daughter, which I do often because she does enjoy it. And so we have that shared experience. It's so meaningful to me. It's not a surprise, obviously, miles to memories. I mean, that's it all ties in
Your
with
fever
this.
dream name.
It's as it should be.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing. Our buddy Matt Perchik wrote an article on Travel on Points about avoiding FOMO, or to resist the urge to FOMO, which happens a lot in miles and points. Is, oh, I saw that person on that trip, I want to go there, I want to go there. And he had a great line in there where he said, once you have miles and points, there are no more once in a lifetime trips. Like, you can do anything if you put your mind to it, a little effort into it. So you don't have to pine away for this trip. You can make it happen as quickly as you can. But even so, I think a lot of people don't realize how cheap international travel is these days, even if you aren't into miles and points, compared to like going to Florida or going to Vegas. I spend more doing that than I would, flying to Europe, parts of Europe and stuff. And once you're over there, it's often cheaper to eat and drink. And, the hotels can be a little bit pricey, but if you plan and kind of search, you can get good deals on the flights and on the hotels. You just might have to do more advanced stuff, or start earlier than you would if you were going to Florida, things like that. But I mean, crap, I've seen like $800 flights to Florida when I've been looking, and it's just like, what is happening here?
And the world is full of young people with no money traveling everywhere. The backpack circuit, they're not that you should do that depending on where you are in life. I did it when I was younger. Certainly happy that I did. I don't stay in hostels and stuff right now, but I would if I had to. But the point is that there are people without all the resources that are making that choice to travel, to find a way to do that.
What? Be the creeper 42-year-old with all the 21-year-olds in the hostel.
Well, there's a certain age, right? Like in your 40s right now, you're the creeper. But then as you get a little older, you're just the cute old hippie or something at the hostel. And then they all love you in that way. So, it just depends on what season you're in life. But if that's what you have to do to go see the stuff, and so, it can be cool to be in a hostel with a bunch of young people. It'll remind you to be young and to see the world in their way. And that's why I've always said people should travel in different seasons of their life, because you're going to experience it in a different way. When you're in your 20s, that's going to be a whole different experience going to Paris than when you're 40 and you're bringing your kids. And you should do both.
I know. Kids definitely bring you down.
Yes. On my last Paris experience, the Eiffel Tower, my daughter brought me down. I will tell you that. That was a rough experience. That was that spring break trip last year. We were all dying of jet lag. The last day, we finally were climbing the Eiffel Tower. This was her 4th trip to Paris or something, which is amazing that we've been able to do that. But we had waited for her to be old enough to remember climbing it, like climbing the stairs and doing all of that stuff. And so this had been something that we had been waiting forever to do. And she's just, the last day of our trip, she's just exhausted and she is just miserable. And luckily, once we started climbing the Eiffel Tower, she kind of got into the moment of all of it. But yeah, I mean, kids can bring it down, but that's I've only been a parent for like 35 years, Mark. So I'm, I am ready for the no kids travel at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you really kind of did yourself in by spacing apart. You're like, all right, this one's almost out the house. You know what? Let's start over again.
Yeah, and I think about that every time they're throwing a temp. She's actually pretty good, but that was probably the worst day that she ever had. And I'm like, here we are at the Eiffel Tower in Paris. You've always wanted to do this. We waited for this, and to her credit, she did it, and that's what it is. And by the way, let's not pretend that adults don't have meltdowns when they're traveling too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when you're traveling with like friends and stuff. It's hard to find friends that really work and connect and want to travel the same way you do. I travel a lot with my buddy Ryan, and we always have a good time, but I'm always like exhausted by the end of it because he's like, "We got to be doing something, man. We got to be doing something." I'm just used to it. We roll through it. We power through it, but we've definitely had some blow ups because we've just been going so like long and so hard that you just get tensions and all that stuff. Doesn't happen often, but it's bound to happen sometimes. But I probably traveled with him more than anybody. And you just kind of find it's hard to find people that you can do that with. I have a couple other buddies that I travel with quite a bit, and it just kind of runs smooth. And then there's other people like that's the nervous part of it. Like we're doing, two families going to Nassau for spring break, and we love them. We've hung out. We've done like short trips together. We've never done a longer trip, never done an international trip together. So you don't know how that's all going to figure out. And sometimes people want to be together all the time. And other times people are like, hey, you go do your own thing all day. We'll see you tonight for dinner. So you just got to kind of figure it out and find your people, I guess. But yeah. So, a question with the Eiffel Tower. How far in advance did you book tickets for that or anything? Any tips for people?
Well, if you want to do the elevator, you should. I don't know how far in advance they go on sale, but just pay attention when they release the tickets and do it ahead of time. You don't want to do walk-ups. For climbing the stairs, it's cheaper, and you can often do the walk-ups. I recommend doing the stairs if you're capable of it because it is a unique experience. I've now done it twice. And what's cool is if you do the stairs up, they don't enforce tickets going to take the elevator down. So you could take the elevator down and get that experience as well. But just being able to go up the stairs and then stop at different points. And by the way, you're going to need to stop. It's a lot of climbing, but you get these great views from different levels. Yeah, going up. And, if you go on like
how long does it take?
I'd say to get 10 minutes or so to get up to maybe 15. It depends on how fast you go.
Oh, that's not
it's probably
too
like
terrible.
20, 30 stories to get up to the.
Did you
to
do the church in Copenhagen that has like the spiral staircase outside?
No, I didn't do that. I have seen it, but I haven't done that.
I was wondering how it compares to that because that one towards the top kicks your butt, but that's more like it's so tight. You're like turning and going up, at a much quicker pace, I would think.
Yeah, there's plenty of places to stop on the stairs on the Eiffel Tower. They keep turning, so you have these landings that you can stop at, and it's just it's beautiful. I've done it a couple times, and as I get older, I'm not going to want to do that. So now I can take the elevator. And I had both experiences, bringing it all back to why people should travel when they can and go to the places. And you're not going to be able to go everywhere and do everything. In fact, that is the number one thing that travelers will tell you is that the more you travel, the bigger the world becomes. So stop trying to think of that you're going to do everything and find the things you enjoy, find the things you want to do, and then do them. And as you say, find the people you want to do it with. I have a good friend, Dave, who I travel with a lot. I don't know that there's a lot of people I would want to share a hotel room with when traveling. I just don't want to do that. But, I travel well with him. We just went on vacation to Hawaii with his wife and our whole family, and I travel with him solo. It's nice to have those people to travel with that are not your family. You get different experiences too, those sort of friend trips.
Yeah, we end up sharing a room a lot of times with me and Ryan. It is nice when you have your own room because then you have your own space to go to back, at night and kind of just relax. But it's also nice, people there, especially if it's a shorter trip or something and you're just like go all the time. And of course, it's way cheaper. So there's some like you. There's some people I would do it with. Other people be like, hey, I love hanging out with you, but I need a break.
Yeah, Mark and I have never shared. Wait, we have shared a hotel room. That's not true.
Yeah,
but not on a trip though.
In
that was
Vegas.
just when you were here in Vegas, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You just passed out, and what was it, Nobu? I think it was Nobu. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark and I would probably honestly kill each other though if we had to spend a week in a hotel room together.
Shawn would be like, I want to go to bed. What are you doing?
So yeah, so I mean, speaking of group trips, you have Rio coming up. That is a meetup, an official meetup, I think, of your top group. And so you have some work stuff mixed in with that, and but it is essentially a group of friends and travelers coming together. What are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Carnival, so that's going to be interesting, and we'll see how it goes. We did Mexico City a couple years ago for their Independence Day, which was nuts. I don't know that it'll be that level. At least we're not going to the main parade. I heard that's just kind of crazy. I think the main parade would be very similar to Mexico City, if not even like more crazy, since Mexico City was so contained in the one center square, but this is a little bit more spread out. But they do have like, I guess, like pop up little parades and kind of hangouts and stuff in each neighborhood. And we're down by the beach, and I guess they have a big like block party essentially of like people dancing, singing, everybody having drinks and having a good time. So I'm gonna check those out. Friday, Saturday, I think they'll be doing quite a bit of stuff. And then I was, Christ Redeemer is the number one thing everybody always talks about going to. Was considering that, but it seems like it's kind of chaotic and kind of a mess. Even if you buy like the tickets that you skip the line or whatever, it's only skip the line up, and then you kind of wait forever to get down, and to get there is a little bit. It seems a little bit more involved, and you got to do it early in the morning. And we land early on Thursday, so we would have to go like straight there if we did it. And I don't know how jet lagged we'll be, or if we get much sleep, because we're flying premium economy down. So I'm kind of curious to see how that works out too, with the footstool and all that stuff, leg rest, whatever you want to call it. I want to see if that's enough to make do for an overnight flight or not. I've never done it during the night, just on day flights. So checking that out. But I want to do Sugar after reading about Sugarloaf Mountain. Basically you ride like a cable car up to the first set, and there's restaurants and bars and stores and stuff there, and then you go up even higher to the peak. Supposed to have cool views of the city and everything. It's right by the hotel, not too far away. And that one has like, you cut all the lines for I think 40 or 50 bucks a person. So it just seems like a better experience. And then I want to try to get down and find a seat outside, as the sun sets. I think that would be really cool.
So you have any beaches planned? Going to go to Copacabana or any of the famous?
We're staying on Copacabana, so definitely we'll be hitting that. You know how I like to travel. I don't have a ton of plans. I pick like one thing I really want to do, and that's Sugarloaf. So that's the one thing, and then kind of let it play from here. Talk to locals, here where the thing is. Like maybe we'll go to a different block party on Saturday. There's one area of town that's supposed to have like the best one, so maybe we'll head up there. It's just kind of how easy is it to get car rides and get around and all that stuff. I don't know how bad it will be with all these different parades kicking off, and like, is it going to be super crazy to get around? I don't know. So we'll kind of play it from there. I want to get the Sugarloaf thing done on Thursday, before everything really kicks off for the weekend. I think it might, even with all of Carnival going on, might be a better time to do it. Might not be as busy as normal because everybody's so focused on all the other stuff.
So what are the big sort of like things to travel for this? You have like Mardi Gras in New Orleans. You have Carnival in Rio. I'm trying to think, like Oktoberfest in Munich.
Gasparilla in Tampa is probably up there. Yeah, I mean, Mexico, I would put the Mexico City Independence Day kind of in the same, not fully drinking and everything, but it's kind of like a spectacle of just a mass amount of people and celebration, fireworks, all that stuff. I'd put that up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to travel for these types of things and to kind of do a trip alongside that. Now, I imagine there's going to be, when we did our Mexico City meetup, we had, 4 or 5 phones pickpocketed. Are you guys concerned about the safety of everybody?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably make mention of it and just, I don't know, I'll wear pants with like a side zipper pocket that's kind of hidden and try to put it in there. I think that's a little bit more difficult to get into, but they could probably cut the bottom of it or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it up in my room and get lost for a while again.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, 'cause when we talk about safety and stuff like that, Rio, obviously a place that a lot of people talk about, and there's a lot of sort of mixed things. Generally, when you talk to travelers, they say it's fine. Although I have talked to quite a few travelers who have gone there recently, or just in the last few years, that do, obviously convey that you should have caution there. So it does live up to the hype. But a lot of times I found everybody's scared of all kinds of places. You have the State Department puts out all these warnings. And then when I've been to certain places that are supposedly scary. It hasn't been the case, but I am always, on guard, looking around. It can be very easy to just let your guard down, walk around a city at night thinking, hey, this is going to be like where I'm at home, and not understanding that, you have to really be aware of everything. And, it's not just Rio. So it could be so many places. And I feel like that is the number one thing tourists do, is they sort of let their guard down.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're like drinking or anything like that. So I mean, if you're in a place that you're not fully comfortable with, I know like going to parts of Colombia, people are like, oh, I don't want to go out at night, or I don't want to leave the vicinity of the hotel, the area I feel safe in, that type of thing. So I get it, and Mexico City, the guy, a guy that grew up in Mexico City in the group, when we did that meetup, was like, it's not safe, be careful, all this stuff, and I thought it was safe. I mean, people got their phones stolen, but that's just like a mass crowd event. Any other time during that, I think I was there for 4 days. I never felt unsafe. I walked around by myself, found like a brewery bar type thing. Nobody really spoke English very much, just kind of pointed at things. We got our got our way through it, but I didn't feel unsafe. Maybe that was being a little delusional. I don't know, but most of the areas felt fine. So I think it's just like, people get overly cautious, but you do want to, it's best to walk around with a group of people if it's at night, and then kind of you should know a little bit about the area where you're at. You don't want to end up in the worst area. That's the same as like New York or Chicago or anything. Like, you don't want to be in the south side of Chicago at night. So just use common sense for the most part. Leave a lot of your stuff back in your room in the safe. All those type of things. Don't bring anything out that you're not okay getting stolen. Things like that.
Yeah, and just be aware, especially, I mean, so many bad things happen to travelers when it's like 2 a.m. and they're drunk in a strange place, listening to strange people, or just stumbling around. So I think it's important to kind of keep your wits about you too, to a certain extent. Don't get like so drunk that you're stumbling around or making a spectacle, or kind of making yourself a target for other people. And, all these crazy stories, but we cover stories like this in Las Vegas too. Somebody gets robbed at 3 a.m. For being drunk and being stupid. And so, yeah, it's going to be the case there as well. And, I walked around New York City a couple of years ago and got attacked by a homeless person. And I walked around New York City a lot in my life at nighttime, and never had, and by attacked, he wanted to fight me, and there was police nearby that were able to stop it. So I didn't get into a physical altercation, but it was dangerous. And that happened at like 8 o'clock at night in New York City. I've walked in the middle of the night. I don't know. It's just a matter of luck and putting yourself out there. But yeah, super excited.
99-cent pizza at 4 a.m., man. That's the thing.
So I saw like a TikTok the other day that was trying to find if there was still dollar pizza in New York City. And they went to 4 different spots that had dollar pizza on their sign, and it was $1.50 everywhere because of inflation or whatever. So I wonder if the 99-cent pizza still exists.
I mean, it did last time I was there like a year ago. It wasn't as many. Like, I would say like 70-75% of the ones we saw had bumped up their price, but we did find a couple that were still 99 cents. But that was a year ago, so it could change by now. But still $1.50. Like, it's crazy to me that they're able to charge that. I mean, it's not the best pizza by far. It's better than a lot of bar pizzas you'll find in any other place. But it's just crazy. And they always try to they can tell when you're a tourist, and they always try to like overcharge you or not give you the correct change, which is annoying as hell. Even the food carts in the park and stuff do that. I hate it.
New York City is a hard place, Mark. You gotta like, you gotta have your wits about you. Don't go to New York like some innocent person all nice. You gotta be
you gotta be a jerk.
I mean, you gotta at least advocate for yourself, or like you say, they're gonna take your change. They're gonna push you around. It's all part of the experience in being there. And I think in Rio, it's gonna be super cool, super crowded. The beach, just being on the beach in Rio, like during the day, even with like the music and that sort of vibe that you always see in videos and stuff like that, I have to imagine will be a lot of fun. And then obviously, or will you even be awake during the day? That's the big question.
I hope so. Yeah, I definitely want to relax a little bit when I can. So hopefully we get some day, and they have like a rooftop pool with a bar and everything. So I think we'll end up there quite a bit, just hanging out during the day and kind of, figuring it out. Or maybe, on Saturday during the day, we'll head out and do something and come back at night and experience all of that stuff. So I'm kind of like an open book on this trip. I got the one thing I want to do, and we'll just kind of play it from here and see how it goes. And I know that the hotel, it's the Hilton there, is a little bit, older, a little bit run down, but it seems like it's okay. So I'll be able to report back on that, being on the beach and all that stuff, and what the festivities are like, and kind of excited to share it with everybody, which I know since I don't get back till Monday night, next episode will probably come out on Tuesday and we'll talk about everything.
So moving on, Mark has teased this Marriott customer service story from a friend of ours, and you said it's almost unbelievable, and so I can't wait to hear it.
It's just so cheap. Like, it's so cheap, but it's Marriott, of course. Yeah, you don't know exactly. I haven't told you what was going on, but okay, I want to get this right. It's the Soul Cypress in San Antonio Tribute Portfolio Hotel. They wanted to go out for Valentine's Day. They didn't want to fly somewhere, so they drove to San Antonio, went there, and they thought they had a 35K free night cert to burn still. I think the room was around 50K, so they had to top it off. It was right by the Riverwalk. They had like an outdoor patio area that opens up to it. So she thought it looked really nice. It's brand new, all this stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let's go check this out, see if they like it. I think she usually likes the Grand Hyatt there. That's her favorite hotel, one of her favorite hotels in the country for sure. But they wanted to give this try to burn the cert and all that stuff. So they, valet is like $45. Self-parking is $40, which is insane. So you might as well just valet park if you stay there. But that's a crazy fee, but whatever. I'm more surprised at the fee for self-parking. But they do that. They go check in, all that stuff. They go up to their room, and remember, it's Valentine's Day. They go up, and there's a carafe of orange juice, a cheap like $15 bottle of champagne, and like 5 dipped strawberries, chocolate dipped strawberries. And they're like, oh, this is really nice. Like, the couple, they did this for Valentine's Day. What a nice touch. Really cool. Brand new hotel. They're really knocking it out of the park. Within a minute or two, she got a phone call from somebody, not the person that checked her in, a different person. And they're like, do you have a bottle of champagne in your room? And she's like, yeah, that was really nice. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Really cool gesture. And he's like, well, that's not for you. I got to come up and get it if you haven't opened it yet.
So this is what would happen as soon as that guy would hear in the background, pop, he would hear the cork going right off that thing.
No, that like, what? So she was kind of taken aback, and she's like, yeah, I mean, I ate some strawberries, but we haven't opened the bottle of champagne yet. And he's like, I'll be up in a minute to get it. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the worst impression ever. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like a $200 bottle of champagne that the person bought ahead of time, but she's like, it's a cheap bottle of champagne. So he comes up, he's like, yeah, I need the stuff. And she's like, this is like the cheapest thing I've ever experienced in a hotel. It's a $15 bottle of champagne. Why wouldn't you just leave it? And he's like, what would make you think that you should get it? And she's like, I don't know. It's Valentine's Day, and we're a couple, and we thought maybe it was something unique that you guys are doing. We stay at the Grand Hyatt all the time. They always leave us gifts and stuff, or little drink. It's not like a hotel never leaves you things. You go to Mexico, they leave you a whole bottle of $200 tequila at a couple of the hotels. Like, this isn't unique, and it's a holiday. So they just acted like, how could you believe that this was yours? Give me my stuff. I'm like, dude, just write it off. Like, even if you have to charge the person that made the mistake $15 out of their paycheck, I don't care. But how do you come up and get that? And then the next day, like, there's nobody working there's no manager on duty when they went downstairs to check out. So she called the hotel later, asked for the manager, talked to him, and he's like, yeah, I didn't work yesterday, so I don't really know about this. And she's like, well, I was kind of surprised nobody called me because I brought it up to the front desk a couple times. And he's like, well, they just told me that somebody got champagne they weren't supposed to, and just, tell her that it wasn't hers, and why would she think it should be hers? And, he's like, they didn't leave me a number or a room number or a name or anything, so I didn't know who to call. I'm like, come on. Like, you can't get down to the bottom of that. But anyway, so they go back and forth. He's like, well, it wasn't supposed to be yours. Sorry, here's 5,000 Bonvoy points.
Well, it's probably worth more than the
it's
champagne.
Worth more.
At least.
It costs you more than the dang bottle would have.
But it's just, again, and when you go into a good hotel, it because managers train staff correctly, and there's a way to be trained how to handle things. And what sort of customer service training allows you to think that you can go back into somebody's room and take strawberries and champagne? Like there's just no, and this manager is just terrible. What world do you think it's okay to just tell a customer? It's one thing if they're in a restaurant and you dropped it off at the table for 5 seconds and you're like, oh my God, that was the
Yeah.
wrong table. It's in their room. She's already had some strawberries. It's Valentine's Day. Yeah, you just do it. And it's not that this hotel sucks or anything. It's just that you can tell just by this story that the management does not understand customer service. And that filters down to the employees. And yeah, just the fact, oh, I wasn't aware of it. So, oh man. And that, they don't even understand how little things like that cost them in the long run. It's so stupid.
It's a brand new hotel. Like, if anything, you should go over the top trying to get the word out that it's good. Like this one mishap, we're talking about on this podcast, they could lose future people that might have gone to burn a cert there over something so stupid. And if you did have to do it, let's say the person paid for it ahead of time, it was the last bottle you had, and you didn't have a way to get another one, then, be upfront, be like, hey, somebody paid for this. It's our fault. We put it in the wrong room. So I apologize. Strawberries, orange juice, keep that. I do need the bottle back because, we got urgently get it to their room. But here are 4 free drink tickets for the bar downstairs. Our apologies. Hopefully you can get a couple glasses of champagne down there. Done. Fixed. Like, it's easy. You could have still gotten it and given enough to make it worthwhile and apologize. If you just up front are like, hey, we really messed up, I would let you keep it, but I have to have it. And, this is the way we're going to make it right. That's all you had to do. Not just, well, it's not yours, so give it to me.
And I'm assuming she has elite status. So just the fact that of some sort. So, the whole question of why would you deserve this is just a little insane. Because, yeah, I mean, the JW Marriott for our Valentine's Day, the anniversary thing, they sent up a bottle of wine. I talked to her, champagne and some chocolates and stuff like that. So it wasn't in the room when we arrived, but often it is. I just imagine they didn't have the room assigned. Generally it is. So yeah, why would you not expect that? I don't know, dozens of times, Mark, I've been in a room where there's a gift for me when I get there.
Yeah. Even places I don't have status with, I've had that happen before. If they know you're celebrating something, especially on like a Valentine's Day, it's just, it doesn't make sense. It's just the cheapest thing ever. I could only imagine Marriott doing this.
I wonder what I would have done. I was really thinking about this as you told the story. I probably would have told them no, because I've gotten a little rowdy lately.
Surly?
Surly. There's the word for it. Like I was at McDonald's, the drive-thru the other day, and I ordered just a coffee. It was no food, no nothing, an iced coffee, and there was not a car behind me at the drive-thru, not a single one. And I pull up to the window, and they asked me to pull around to the side to wait for my coffee. And I told them, I said, no, I'm not pulling around the side to wait for my coffee so you guys can clear your drive-through numbers. I said, there's nobody waiting behind me. And then the manager came over and tried to explain. I said, all the time that you've just spent to explain this, you could have just made my coffee and not had me go there. And it's the same sort of thing.
Oh, you got some spit in that coffee. I'll guarantee you that.
No, I could, they had to make it. Thankfully they make it right in front of you. So it all happened. But like, why should I have to go drive around because you want your metrics? But they don't understand, what the customer wants or needs. And I have to think that I would just told them no and pop the champagne just to kind of prove it. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But it's like, I like to think that I would have.
I'd like to think that I'd say, yeah, I already opened it. What do you mean? And yeah, whatever, go for it. Screw you. I mean, I think I've told the story before when I bought a car once, and I regret this to this day. I bought a car once. I was looking at 2 different cars, and, picked the one, and they're like, all right, this is how much it will be monthly. I'm like, okay. So I go to, to sign the paperwork, and I notice that the amount is the other car that I didn't buy. It was like 15,000 to 13,000 or whatever. But I'm like, I'm young at this point. I'm like 24, 25. And I'm like, okay, that seems weird, but the payment matches up to what they told me the payment would be. So sign it, all that stuff, and drive away. And they call me and say, hey, we messed up. We made a big mistake on the paperwork. The person filling it out put the amount, for the cheaper car should have been this car. Need you to come back. We can rip that up and start doing new paperwork. I should have said, no, this is the payment you told me. That's your fault. I don't know who's going to eat it, but somebody's going to eat it there. I did go back. They didn't even offer to like split it with me or anything. It was just, yeah, I was young and and I felt bad. I didn't want somebody to get like fired over it. And now I'd be like, screw you. Like that's not my fault.
I mean, I could see both sides of that. I could see trying to push for some sort of a fair resolution. I talked on this show about my whole Rivian lease experience and how, months and months, at 6 months, that they didn't process my lease. And I was just sitting there not making payments, like worried about what was going to go on. And in the end, they came to me and they basically just wiped out the payments. By the way, I received a 1099 for that. For the payments I didn't have to make on the Rivian, but it's still better than having to make the payments, I guess. I just got the 1099 this week. Cool. So.
Then it's like legit, and not like they still made a mistake. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, sometimes there's a happy medium, right? There's a big mistake, and you don't expect them to eat that whole mistake, but to try to help you out, and I don't know. It all depends.
Yeah, give me like you just want to be $1,000 gas card. Or something. Yeah. Like just be like,
and sometimes you do feel bad for the employee. Like you watch somebody make a mistake right in front of you. It's like if somebody gives me the wrong change, I'm going to try to give them the change back. I'm not going to take it. I don't want that person to get in trouble. This happens, all the time. So, it's just common sense, but you should be treated with that as well. And I'm sorry, Veronica, that your champagne, the mishap, and just what a terrible way to have Valentine's. No, but yeah, it's just, this is the thing. When I used to be a manager and I went through all my management training, they always taught you that indifference really is the killer to customer service. People like in the restaurant will come back if they absolutely love your restaurant, and they'll never come back. If they hate it, they may never mention it again, but it's the indifference. It's like if they went and it was just okay, that can be like a cancer for your business over time, much more than good or great or bad service. And that's what this sounds like.
Yeah. They'll put up with bad food if you have great service, they really like it, or like mediocre food. Or if you have great food, but bad service, they probably will put up with that too, to a point. But if you just have, nothing special either way, then you're definitely in that no man's land.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. And I think that's going to do it for this episode. I'm looking forward to hearing about Rio. We'll have another episode before your Rio episode where we talk all about that next week, but that is looking fun. Let us know what you guys think about this whole Marriott story. Memories, are they really a deposit? Do you see that as like compounding returns on your travel and on your memories? How do you explain that to your friends? How do you evangelize this? How do you get people who are against travel to kind of change their mind about it? Or do you not care and just enjoy your life and don't worry about them? Leave a comment. If you're listening, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And thank you so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Do you ever wish you were like one of those people that is perfectly content never leaving their town? I kind of do.
Yeah, I do, but it sounds so boring.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, if you're happy, who cares? It's just crazy.
Yep, you're not wrong.